Hi everyone, how are you doing? It's Eva again with another tutorial. So this time we are making pumpkin decorations from upcycled scraps of fabric that you might have around. So what you'll need for this is scissors. I've got a few different bits of fabric. You want them to be in a square or rectangle shape. So they don't have to be precise or anything. I'm actually going to sew these two together and have a two-tone pumpkin and cut a little rectangle or square out of it. I've got a bit of bias binding to use as the little pumpkin stock. This is just left over from another project, but you could use twigs, you could use any other, maybe a bit of cork or some wood, any like leftover fruit stalks, or yeah, twigs. You could go out and find them in the park. This is a tapestry needle, so it's really long, which is best for when we have to sew through the pumpkins, but if you don't have one, a normal needle will be absolutely fine. Just be careful when you're pushing it through, make sure you don't hurt yourself. Oh, and stuffing. I have a bag of scraps that I'll be using for mine. You could use paper, you could use the inside of an old cushion or a toy that's burst open, you could use what else? Yeah, fabrics as well, or you could maybe use like lentils or beans if you wanted to make more of a like heavyweight pumpkin. It might not have the same sort of fluff, but you could try. You'll also need some thread if you're hand sewing. I'm going to do mine on a machine, but this project's really easy to do hand sewing, and also some embroidery floss or a thicker thread, some string, to make our little ridges around the pumpkin that you'll see later on. So first step, I have sewn together the two bits of fabric that I wanted to use for my bigger one. I'm just going to fold this in half, like so. If you have a wrong side to your fabric or a seam like I do, that will go on the outside, so it's right sides together. And for everything else, I'm also just folding them over. So this is a longer rectangle, fold that over, and this one also a longer rectangle. I have a sneaking suspicion that the longer rectangles are actually going to make a better pumpkin shape, but we'll see how it goes. I'm now just going to sew along two sides. So you have your fold, we're going to sew along the top and sew along one of the sides, leaving one open. Just, it can be either this side or this side that you leave open, the shorter side of it, but definitely sew down the longer side. Now that I've sewn around all of my little pumpkin bags, I'm just going to turn them all through. Don't have to worry about clipping any corners or anything because they're kind of going for a more natural V shape. And we're going to tie them all up to make our pumpkin ridges. I'm going to cut this one down so that it's more of a square shape. So I don't think rectangles are better to start with for this project. Great. Now I'm going to stuff them. You want to stuff them until they're pretty full so that they are they're not going to sag anywhere. So I will be back because I have a lot of scraps to shred in order to do that. Now that I've filled all my little pumpkin bags, I've just poked the bottom corners in to give them a slightly rounder bottom. I am just going to sew a stitch just in and out around the top with one thread so we can tie them off and put them together. So my bags are all sewn up now. I've taken a couple of centimetres off the top just because I felt like maybe they weren't stuffed enough. This is the point at which you can, once you've done this, because you can pull it, you can think, is it stuffed enough? Do I want to go back and add some more stuffing? And you can decide for yourself. I think this one seems okay, so I'm going to tie it off. There's two different ways that you could finish a top depending on what you want to do. So this one has made quite a neat little ball, and this way I've left the little tufty bits out because maybe I want that to be the top of my pumpkin. I haven't decided. If you do want to do this way, I'll try and show you on this one. All you have to do is just, before you tighten up your pumpkin, just flip. Tighten up halfway, flip these inside. And then this is good if you wanted to do like put a wee stick in the top to make your little pumpkin stock. And we'll just tighten that up. Cut off these excess threads. One day I'll find a camera angle that will get both me and the work in at the same time. I think I might put these on a little string and make them a garland so I can hang them down by my window. Next we're going to be using our embroidery floss and the biggest needle that we have, and I'm going to be using 3 threads for my embroidery floss. You can use more if you want to do a thicker one, you can use less. You can play around with it and see what you like. So for sewing through to make our ridges for our pumpkins, oh, I've just put that and I'm so entangled. So I'm going to tie a knot at the end of my floss, and this is, I was saying earlier on about shredding some fabric scraps, because, and I know I've done it in this one so I'm not going to do this one first, if you don't shred your fabric scraps you end up with lots and lots of layers of fabric instead of like lots of tiny bits of fabric in your little ball, so it'll be really hard to pull your needle through it. So hopefully I've done a bit better with this one. So I'm just going to go in from the top, get a little aid from the table, and I'm going to repeat that, wrapping the thread around as I go to pull and squash the pumpkin down. But you're going to go back in through the middle each time. Oh, it's a workout. So this is where we'll get the little ridges for our pumpkins. And while it definitely doesn't look pumpkin-y just now, trust the process. Trust the process. Okay, we're back. That took a lot longer than I thought, but we have some little pumpkins. So I'm just going to add some stalks to these, and I will tell you what I have learned is if you are going to use fabric scraps, cut them up very small. Very, very small. Smaller than you think. I had a really hard time getting the needle through my pumpkins for the most part. So, right, I'll be back with stalks. For my stalks, if you do want to make bias binding, this is just a 3 centimeter strip of fabric I've cut. I've ironed it in half, and then I've ironed those halves in, so I've quartered it. And then the 2 wee raw edges go inside and they fold over. And I'm actually just going to cut just quite a small length, double it over, maybe put a little stitch in the bottom, and then depends what you're going to use these for. You could just stick it in like that, or you could do a little sewing, a little tack with a little needle and thread to give it a slightly, like if you wanted to hang them, maybe you could you could hang them from this. So you might want to just do, or glue gun, just glue it in. I'm just going to push them in just now. That's the one I made for, it was a lot easier to make this one for an example. And let's do next ones. I have to say the rectangle shape definitely didn't turn out as well as the square ones, so I would definitely go for squares to start. No, the other way around. Rectangles to start and fold them over, because I think like that one worked out very well. A little gingham number. And this one's sort of gone, you can sort of see the two-tone, but it's not as nice as I thought it was going to be. I think I'm going to keep one of these as a pin cushion, because I think that would be pretty nice. Oh, okay, I'll just need a moment with this. Alright, here's our little pumpkins. All made from scrap materials, totally recycled. A really nice way to make some decorations that'll last for a really long time. So I'll stop moving the camera. And I hope this is clear enough. If you need any more information about how to make these up, maybe a simpler dialogue, I can send you over a worksheet. Just email me, eva@greenguardians.co.uk. Okay, bye guys.